Mitch. It's only a name, a nickname, a friendly name. Or so it was, until one fateful week in October 1998, when a hurricane called Mitch struck Central America. The name Mitch became synonymous with one of the most devastating hurricanes the world has ever seen, affecting more than 2.5 million people. More than 20,000 either dead or missing. Nearly 300,000 homes destroyed. In the hillside villages of Nicaragua's Casitas volcano, mudslides and floods wiped out whole communities. Only 92 survived out of a population of 2,000. Half of all the agricultural land, the lifeblood of the people, was destroyed. The coffee and banana plantations decimated. The long-term economic effects on the region are staggering. Direct damage to the infrastructure and agricultural production alone has been estimated at $3.5 billion. The immense force and devastating effect of Hurricane Mitch, covering such a vast area, presented one of the greatest challenges ever faced by relief organizations. The enormity of the disaster was overwhelming for both governments and aid agencies alike. More than 8,000 Red Cross volunteers were mobilized by the national societies in Central America. Working in cooperation with the governments and other aid agencies, they helped rescue and evacuate over 1.3 million people. They set up hundreds of shelters, offering first aid, food, water, and clothing to all those in need. Thousands of people were still isolated weeks after the initial devastating storm. Many stranded in trees or on rooftops with little food and water. The Red Cross societies played a major role in bringing many of these survivors to safety.
Muchas cosas se vieron allí. En mí iba a quedar marcado para toda la vida tantos cadáveres que vi, la forma en la que murieron y la forma de sus expresiones en su rostro de sufrimiento. Sinceramente tuve alrededor de una semana en la que no podía dormir pensando en cuánto sufrimiento sintió esa gente.
Los voluntarios de la Cruz Roja y muchos miembros de las comunidades reaccionaron de una manera muy activa en los primeros momentos del huracán Mitch. Realizaron muchas operaciones de rescate, distribuyeron alimentos, participaron en la evacuación de personas e incluso impartieron primeros auxilios y organizaron albergues temporales. En este momento se notó cómo las comunidades y los voluntarios que habían seguido el programa de educación para la preparación para desastres tuvieron una respuesta mucho más rápida y eficaz, con lo cual hay una lección para el futuro sobre lo importante que es reforzar este programa.
A huge international relief operation was mounted. Strong early support came from Red Cross, Red Crescent national societies from around the world. Food, clothes, blankets, medicines, emergency relief supplies, and cash donations flooded in. Health and hygiene supplies, water and sanitation units were airlifted in from Europe and North America with additional funds and manpower from neighboring Red Cross societies. Working alongside the governments of the countries involved, the UN and other aid agencies, the local Red Cross, with support from the Federation and donor national societies, were in the forefront of this massive relief operation. This operation generated enormous amounts of badly needed aid. For the Red Cross, this produced huge coordination difficulties, providing an important lesson for future complex emergencies. It also created logistical problems, which were compounded by the destruction of the infrastructure. The scale of the devastation wrought by Hurricane Mitch continues to pose tremendous problems for all those involved in the reconstruction and rehabilitation process. In a region already prone to the violent forces of nature, Mitch made the population much more vulnerable. The priority is to create a program of reconstruction and rehabilitation that would help reduce this vulnerability and help those most affected by the disaster to regain their self-sufficiency, respect, and dignity. Seeds and agricultural tools were distributed, and food for work programs introduced throughout the region. Set up and run by the Red Cross, they encouraged the beneficiaries of food aid to take an active part in the reconstruction of their communities through a variety of projects, from building bridges and latrines to clearing roads. Part of the rebuilding process is to try and ensure that future structures, whether public buildings or private dwellings, are constructed to withstand the onslaught of other natural disasters. To build on land less likely to be affected by mudslide or floods. But in the aftermath of Mitch, one of the most important and urgent issues facing both the governments and the Red Cross is the complexity of identifying, procuring, and servicing land in order to resettle the hundreds of thousands of displaced people into newer and safer housing. Repairs to roads, communications, bridges, and water supply systems and other essential services are progressing slowly. And the longer this issue remains unresolved, the greater the risk to those still suffering the consequences of Hurricane Mitch. Within a year, the normal seasonal rains in Central America resulted in red alerts, underscoring the inevitability of recurring disaster.
El problema que tenemos en este sector y para un futuro desastre sería la evacuación de las personas de ese lugar que están en sectores muy bajos y continuamente con las menores lluvias que suceden sube el lago y eso es el problema mayor. Hay que hacer un trabajo de conciencia en todos los pobladores, buscarlos en lugares más altos.
Being prepared for such a disaster is essential, and communities are much more aware of this. Not only can it save lives, but it can also ensure the economic and social stability of a community, a country, or in this case, a whole region. Increasingly, disaster preparedness and response is being seen by Red Cross, Red Crescent societies throughout the world as a critical part of their work.
The Red Cross is best known for taking action once something has happened. We are seen as a response organization, which is maybe the most important thing we do. But disaster preparedness is part of our long-term work. It's building the competence and capacity of national Red Cross societies and Red Crescent societies to respond immediately. It's working with local governments to create that strong link between the capacity of the national society and the national and local government to respond in a coordinated fashion.
Already the efforts being put into disaster preparedness are beginning to reap rewards. But many national societies have suffered from a chronic lack of funds. Hurricane Mitch has highlighted the need for long-term funding. The challenge is to maintain the momentum, to confirm donor commitment, enabling national societies to be better prepared to face the catastrophic consequences of disasters. Disaster preparedness has saved many lives in the past and can save many more in the future.
Las sociedades nacionales no solamente nos están ayudando en la rehabilitación del país, sino en la capacitación del país, porque todo programa, ya sea el de viviendas o el de reconstruir escuelas o lo que sea, va involucrado la parte de educación. Y algo que también sería interesante, hubo un programa, un proyecto muy chiquito conseguido por la oficina regional en Guatemala, donde se preparó toda la población al borde de los ríos en el norte, que es la zona que ha sido más propensa a los desastres. Y realmente la cantidad de muertos y la cantidad de gente damnificada en ese sector ha bajado. Ha bajado. Entonces quiere decir que este tipo de preparación dentro de la población civil es muy importante y debemos continuarlo.
For the Federation and the national societies, Hurricane Mitch was one of the most challenging operations ever undertaken in the Americas region. But good often comes from adversity, and this case is no exception. Not only is there a new consciousness among the people of Central America, there is a new will to ensure that they are better prepared next time round. Hurricane Mitch has created a new awareness.